Broadcast in over 80 countries worldwide, the show Pat and Matt is certainly a childhood classic and continues to warm the hearts of adults equally so. A particularly fascinating aspect of this show is the sheer amount of information, and sometimes even politics, that lies beneath its surface presentation of a clumsy pair of neighbors. So without further ado, let's explore the Pat and Matt iceberg today. I doubt there are many people who will be shocked by the plot of Pat and Matt episodes, but just in case, a spoiler warning. The phrase Ajeto, which directly translates to "that's that" or "and it's done" in English, is the catchphrase of the series, with Pat and Matt usually performing a hand gesture that conveys this phrase towards the end of each episode. Moreover, it used to be the title of the series between 1979 and 1989. Funnily enough, in the Dutch version of the show, the two actually utter the phrase when the gesture happens, sometimes even verbally explaining its Czech origin.
Ajeto, zoals de Tsjechen zeggen.
The Bonton Kids remasters refers to many of the older episodes of the show being uploaded to the Bonton Kids YouTube channel to watch for free. To say that these episodes are remasters of their originals is a bit of a stretch, however, as many of them were uploaded in 480p and some in 720p. As mentioned earlier, a Dutch version of the show exists, which is named Buurman Buurman, roughly translating to two neighbors. Something very notable about this version is that whereas Pat and Matt are normally mute, Buurman Buurman has been dubbed since the very beginning, with voice acting by Simon van Leeuwen and Kees Prins. The two tend to mostly describe what they're doing and feeling, rarely engaging in actual conversation.
Nou, dan moet jij hem loslaten. Oh jee, nog een ruit.
Pak jij nou maar een kippetje.
In 1976, in the now dissolved Czechoslovakia, located in Eastern Europe, the first episode of what came to be Pat and Matt was produced, then under the title Kuťáci, or Tinkerers. It was shown in cinemas, with the intention being to start up a TV show, broadcast from Prague. This plan was spoiled, however, as Kratky Film, the company that produced the first episode, relayed to the creators that their program was not aligned with the communist cultural policy of the time, in their eyes being only simple entertainment with no further educational value. Luckily for us, however, people in the Slovak part of the country were interested in continuing the show, leading to the first run of Ajeto on television in 1979. Pat and Matt seem to be quite the nomads, with them seemingly moving every few episodes. It leaves one to wonder where they obtain the financial means to do so. Do they hold a special status in their society? Did one of the two win the lottery? We may never know, although a more practical explanation could be that the surroundings were changed to keep the show interesting and increase variety in the stories. To be fair, this entry is quite snarky, and seems to look for an ulterior motive for Pat and Matt interacting as much as they do, which in my mind is in bad taste, given how childlike the two are. Sure, they could potentially be either both gay or in a homosexual relationship together, but there doesn't seem to be much that proves or disproves this, as the show does not touch upon themes like sexuality and love. From what we can see, the two are exceptional neighbors and friends. Beyond this, Pat and Matt being canonically gay would not have been very well received in the communist society the show originated in.
Lukt het niet, buur? Kijk, ik zal het even voordoen, goed?
In 2009, a video game company called Bohemia Interactive, yes, the same Bohemia Interactive behind the Arma series and DayZ, launched the official Pat and Matt video game, which features the iconic neighbors in various minigames, among which are car repair, jigsaw puzzle, fashion show and mini-golf. From these, car repair stands out the most, since it allows the player to control 3D models of Pat and Matt to come up with creative ways to repair their car's flat tire, as if interactively playing an episode. The other 3 minigames are less stellar and likely received less attention in development. Especially Mini Golf is just a generic mini golf game with no association to the show whatsoever. Vinari, Czech for Winemakers, is episode 24 of the show, produced in 1984, which places it in the Ajetology era. This episode is peculiar, since it features our heroes making wine in a typically ingenious way, to then distill it into what we can only assume to be highly concentrated ethanol. In fact, in the Dutch dub, Pat mentions their concoction as being pure alcohol, which I think needs no further translation. After drinking this extreme form of moonshine, the two begin seeing double and start hallucinating. In the Dutch dub, their speech also becomes slurred and nonsensical.
Wat gebeurt hier? Ja, ik weet niet wat er gebeurt hoor, maar ik voel me heel raar voor de buurt. Ik voel me heel raar.
Pat and Matt have been used as a vehicle for several companies to advertise their business. One could imagine this to be ironic given the anti-capitalist system under which the show was created, but in reality the Soviet Union was more keen on commercial advertising than one might think. Regardless, some examples are the Lidl ad, which is rather meta as it features the two looking at a Lidl ad on their own TV, several ads for a Czech insurance company called CPP, which feature quite a range of scenarios, mostly involving Pat and Matt's surprisingly modern car, and some more for Merkur, a Slovenian electronics shop where they, for instance, break their TV watching football, then purchase a new one. This final ad also contains 2 scenes that show Pat and Matt over backgrounds from real life, which is honestly somewhat unsettling. The Ajetology blog is a website run by Marin Pajanin from Croatia. It's most likely the most comprehensive resource on Pat and Matt online, as it features a complete episode list, original interviews with creators of the show, and many articles about details in episodes and the history behind Pat and Matt. The English Wikipedia page for Pat and Matt cites this blog several times, and even this very iceberg was created using information from it by the user The Big Big Archive, to whom I give special thanks. Another obvious entry. There are a surprisingly large number of fan-made episodes of the show, varying from hand-drawn 2D animation to splicing together parts of existing episodes along with visual effects, to original stop-motion, to more casual approaches. Oh, and then there's also data. The music is one of Pat and Matt's defining features, indicating the mood of every scene and conveying much of what the two heroes feel. Someone online by the name of Gilotomia has remade some of the music of the series, using very similar instrumentation to the original, yet adding a personal touch here and there. I find it particularly impressive how well Gilotomia has been able to match the sounds of the originally used synthesizers. It is a bit mysterious who exactly this user is, as I've only seen their work uploaded on YouTube channels that do not go by the name Gilotomia. In 2021, 2 Korean celebrities by the names of Changyoon and Jaeyoon presented a show called Idol School Live Pat and Matt Special Lecture, in which they pay homage to the original duo by partaking in several activities including cooking and building a bench. 2 little figurines of Pat and Matt are present throughout the show, and the very end even features the Ayeto gesture. Changyoon and Jaeyoon are known for their clumsiness, probably explaining why they in particular were put together to present this show. There's not much to be explained about this entry, to be honest. Someone made Gmod models for Pat and Matt that even feature ragdoll physics. In the very first episode of Pat and Matt, then called Kuťáci, as we saw higher up on this iceberg, Matt had a red sweater, while Pat's was yellow. The authors intended to keep this color contrast for the show's start on Slovenian television. However, to quote director Lubomir Beneš, the first episodes were also screened abroad, and someone from the Czech side apparently objected that it represented a confrontation between the Soviet Union and China. We were forced to give them a change of clothes, into yellow and grey. When it did not bother anyone anymore, we returned to the original colors. Matt ended up wearing the grey sweater throughout all of the Ajetology era, right up until 1989. In total, 4 Pat and Matt feature films have been produced, releasing from 2016 to 2019. These films consist of several past episodes linked together, with parts of new animation filling the gaps. Playing Cards was supposed to be the 50th episode of Pat and Matt, to be released towards the end of the 1990s. However, sometime around its production, Lubomir Beneš, the very same director I quoted 2 entries ago, passed away. He was co-author of Pat and Matt and creative head at AIF, the studio that produced the series at the time, and turned out to be a figure the studio could not survive without, as soon after his death, internal conflict in the studio led to its eventual dissolution. The episode was finished after his death, but never saw the light of day for reasons that are still not entirely clear. Or at least, that used to be the story. Playing Cards was actually released in South Korea, which is the reason you're seeing footage of it right now. The full version of this story is one of the most intriguing and sinister behind Pat and Matt, and should be read on the Ajetology blog, as I cannot do all of its detailed justice here. According to the official Pat and Matt website, a Pat and Matt game app was released to the App Store and Google Play at some point in time. However, the links to the app seem to be dysfunctional, indicating that it might have been removed. The thumbnail image for the app shows some kind of playroom, possibly containing puzzles. Remarkable is that